Welcome to the Divine Lifestyles Podcast. I'm your host, Tara Magalski. Together with my guest experts, I cover topics ranging from cutting-edge healing modalities to hormonal harmony, to nutrition and plant medicine, to mindfulness and spirituality. My goal is to educate and inspire so you can create your own divine lifestyle. It's time to dive inward, rewire your brain, and heal from the inside out. Welcome to the Divine Lifestyles Podcast. I am your host, Tara Magalski. Today, I am joined by the beautiful Emily Ahrens, CEO, healer, and business alignment coach. Emily is a renowned intuitive healer and business coach for coaches, healers, and leaders. She's best known for helping her clients unlock their intuition, get into alignment, and generate lots of growth within their business. With over 2 decades of experience, Emily has honed her healing skills to create the first and only energy-based certification training with a profit guarantee. It's called the Integrative Energy Alignment Practitioner Training. Wow. Thank you so much for being here today, Emily.
Great to see you. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to dive in. I know that we've connected before and had so much to talk about. So I kind of just want to dive right in. Before we get into a little bit more about your work, I want to hear about you. Who were you growing up? You know what I mean? Where did you grow up? What led you to the work that you are doing now?
Yeah, it's sort of interesting. As a kid, I know I was always led to help other people. I mean, my kindergarten journal, I wanted to be a doctor so I could help people. And it turned into something far more meaningful for me, which was leading down a spiritual path as a young kid. I would use my allowance money and odd job money to buy books on healing and aromatherapy and alternative medicine. And that really just drew me in. And, you know, I had friends, of course, that were like excited when I buy books on astrology and they're like, "Ooh, tell me about my matches." But it kind of led me towards knowing I wanted to become a healer. And after high school, I went directly to learn healing arts. So I learned massage therapy, I learned advanced energy therapy, I learned distance energy work, and a lot of other things. And then I went to college. So I went to energy school first, and then I went to college second. I started my first wellness center when I was 22 years old in downtown Salem, Massachusetts, while I was attending the college in Salem. So I was both a business owner and a student simultaneously. And it really fulfilled me, but ultimately my partners weren't a great fit. And I ended up dissolving my partnership a few years later, exactly when I graduated college. So I found myself just constantly having this calling. I know I want to help people. I want to make an impact in the world. And I also had no idea how to do that because all of the trainings that I've ever took and all the certifications that I had, earned, they just teach you that modality. They don't actually teach you how to run a business, how to market yourself, how to put yourself out there. And so I was doing what every broke healer before me did, which is I would discount my services. I would price myself based like my neighbors. I would also internalize when people didn't want to buy or rebook, and I would make myself feel terrible. And it was like nothing was really working. And I finally hit a rock bottom about 15 years into it. And I had also taken some corporate jobs as well because I wanted safety and security that my practice didn't bring me. And so it was about 15 years in, and I had my first son, and I realized I wanted to stop trading my time for money in the way that I was doing it. And I felt this voice, I heard this voice. I was receiving a healing session, and I was on a table, and I heard this voice that said, "Light workers, be the light." And for me, what that meant was you're doing a disservice to the world by keeping all of your gifts held like hostage inside of you. You're not actually sharing them. And I knew what that also meant was it's time to be more visible. It's time to be seen. It's time to be heard. I got to get myself out there on the internet a little bit more than I'm doing right now. And that also meant coming out of my spiritual closet, because even though I had clients who had been with me for over a decade, they did not know that I was psychic or intuitive or really connected, and that, the second that I would put my hands on them, I would get this download of information. Like I kept it all quiet. Now looking back on it now, I'm like, damn it, why didn't you share that? You would have been like so overbooked. People be referring people like crazy. But I actually believed that if I told people I was psychic and I had these abilities, that actually they would do the opposite, that they would run away. And I had these fears that I would die broke and penniless and homeless, and like it would be the worst case scenario if I told people who I really was. And my guides really just gently pushed me out of the nest and said, it's time to be seen. And little by little, I started to listen to my intuition to guide me to the next step and the next step. And what that led me to do was to actually start making the impact that I was hungry for. And when I really started to show myself, people did the opposite that I thought that they were going to do, and they came rushing. They came running in. They came closer. The people who wanted my work, they came in. And I'm sure I'm sure that people were not attracted to me for those things as well. So letting go the people who weren't needed to be in my world, and pulling in and attracting the people who really needed to be in here. And since then, I've really, I've made it my mission is to impact millions of practitioners to help teach them how to build a sustainable and successful business. And so that's what I'm on a mission to do right now, is just to keep helping teaching practitioners who are absolutely amazing at their work, but also need to know how it is to run a business. So I'm this little unicorn. I do the energy and I do the business and I bring them all together.
I love that. How did you discover your gifts as a healer?
I don't think I really discovered them. I feel like they were they were always there and I denied them, and then I would take trainings to develop them. And through the trainings, I was like, oh, so that's what that's called, that I think I can do. I didn't have a vocabulary. I didn't have any sort of context around like anything. And I can remember I was taking this advanced intuition program once, and it was in person, and we were doing psychometry. And psychometry is when you hold a physical object and you just read whatever energy you're getting off of it. And when we first do this exercise, everyone's got partners and you have our eyes closed, and your partner takes out the secret object and they put it in your hand so you can't see what it is. And it was like the second that I touched the objects, it was like, all this information just started coming at me. And I remember like even getting my first Oracle card deck, and I was co-hosting a retreat that weekend. I'm like, I'll just do readings for everybody. And it was like 30 readings all at once. And it's like, oh, I guess I'm really okay. I guess I can do this too. And then it kind of opened up. And so what I really honed in is that because I have developed this high sensitivity to energy, it doesn't matter if I'm in person with people or if I'm online with them, I can pick up on their energy and help them understand where they're blocked, especially regarding their business, so that they can clear the blocks and move forward at a pace that's more in alignment with their natural state, their higher self. And that's really what I honed. I didn't really know that I was working on entrepreneurs until I looked back. All the clients I had been seeing, even the massage ones, they were entrepreneurs. And it was like, oh, okay. So I've been doing this for a while. And I remember I took an Akashic Records certification, and, you see your 50 practice people. And I'm like, oh, 95% of them are entrepreneurs, so it's like, the writing was on the wall. My gifts were already there. I was taking courses to develop them. But it wasn't until I finally was like, aha, this is what I do, because I see this is what I've been doing. It was already there in front of me, but it was like something I developed over time. I didn't think I was born with these gifts. I just started to work on them. And then I realized, oh, this is actually what I'm very, very good at.
I love that. I want to hear a little bit more about the Akashic Record certification that you took because it's something that I'm very interested in as well.
Yeah, so the training, it's interesting because the training was uh it was delivered. I forget even how. I think it was just like audio files that she sent us. And I remember learning her technique and how to access the Akashic records. And I would follow this sort of like step by step by step process. And then at a certain point, I started kind of going off the rails and going to where I was like just intuitively, naturally led. Instead of trying to force this sort of way of doing it, I started to kind of flow the way that it went, the way that it felt more naturally for me. And instead of getting the exact amount of lifetimes and the exact year and the exact time when that thing happened, what I was seeing over and over and over again with my clients was that I was actually led into working in their energy field and clearing things from all lifetimes in their energy field. And it kind of was pointless to be like, what lifetime and what year was that? Because it's like a thread of a sweater. You just keep pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling. It's like, just take me to the root. That's where I kept going. Just take me, like, I don't want to know the long story. Just take me to the root. What needs to be cleared, what needs to be shifted. Like, let's just like skip all the story in between. Let's go to the root. If a story is necessary for a client, I share it. It's not usually though. So it's like, the patterns that have happened to us in this current lifetime have been happening over and over and over again in many instances. And so, it's like, okay, how many lifetimes did this happen in? Like, it's irrelevant. So a lot of the questions that I was trained to ask and to hone in for is like, this isn't where I need to go. Maybe for other practitioners, if that was just what they did, sure. But for me, it was like, no, I'm here to actually clear this patterning. I'm here to, shift these contracts. I'm here to break up these, generational curses. Let's just go to the root. Just take me to the root. I don't have time for all this other stuff. And so I ended up viewing it through the energy field, the way I had been trained, over a decade prior, which was knowing the 7 main chakras really deeply. And when I'm in each individual chakra, there might be some story there that needs to be cleared. So, every person's different. What comes up for every person is really unique. And so I feel like there was that blending in and sort of like a blending out of like, it's important for me to know. And I'm not only just doing that. It's part of the what do you call it? Just like the intricate practice of the work that I do.
So let's talk a little bit about my favorite subject, intuition.
Sure.
And then we'll talk a little bit about the chakras as well. So
Sure.
for people who are tuning in that have a hard time knowing, how to access their intuition,
Yeah.
what do you think are some, like, can you share just simple practices that people can do to tap in and harness that inner
Yeah.
knowing and inner
Yeah.
voice?
Yeah. The simple fact is that we've been trained to not listen to our intuition and to trust basically just left brain logic, which is fine, except when all the time we have scenarios that we had a little instinct about something and we second guessed ourselves and we did the opposite. And then we later went, you know what? I regret doing that. Or I knew better. But that's like the norm for most people is they have the instinct, they dismiss it, and they focus on left brain logic. So right brain intuition is also in charge of our body, which is really interesting, our creativity. So that part of our brain is wired differently than the logic side. So in order to start trusting your intuition, you have to start listening. It's a funny little thing. If you feel like your intuition isn't very strong, I would invite you to do a 1-minute meditation every day, meaning you don't have to think of like a blank space with like absolute silence, but just deep breathing, 1 minute. I don't care if you're laying in bed or you're out for a walk or you're in the shower, or you're cooking breakfast. I don't care. But for 1 minute, just focus on your breathing. And what will happen if you're focusing on your breathing, you can also focus on perhaps bringing in some white light into your body, releasing any tension or soreness in your body and letting it go. Through that kind of simple practice, you're going to start noticing areas of your body that's holding on to tension and tightness. what is that telling me? What information is coming in with that? Those are the ways that we start to kind of hone in on our intuitive muscles to go, okay, so I feel this thing in my body. This is what's going on. Even when like life is happening and you get that hit of like, something feels off, something feels funny. Just for 1 second, just kind of be inquisitive. What is it that's going on? Where do I feel that in my body? What is it trying to tell me? Is there anything any more that I need to know? Okay, done. But the thing is that intuition, it's like a whisper. And so you actually have to get quiet to listen to it. It's not going to scream at you all the time. We kind of have this misconception that, intuition is going to be so loud and so audible, and it's going to maybe sound like Gandalf the Great in our head. It doesn't. And especially at first, it's going to be soft, it's going to be subtle, it's going to be in your own voice, and you're not going to be sure if it's your own thoughts or if it's actually intuitive. So my rule of thumb is, if you're having that thought and it's something that is positive, helpful, loving, and kind, just go with it. Like, you don't have to go into left brain and be like, I don't know, where did this thought come from? Let me check. Just go with it. So whether or not you know it's your intuition, or you think it's your voice, or you think it's your imagination, it just is. So you don't have to spend any time questioning it. Just start to listen. Your intuition is not typically something that's going to say like, you're terrible, you're awful, you don't think you shouldn't. Your intuition is never going to say that kind of stuff. So listening to your intuition, you got to get quiet and start listening to it about like the mundane everyday things. And there will be times where it's so apparent that it's your intuition. When you start to get in touch with your breath, when you start to get in touch with your body, when you start to listen to the subtleties of your own thoughts, when you start to see in nature, like, how amazing is it that this animal just obviously when a butterfly flies in front of you, like, oh, it's so cool. But like, what about if, like, for me last week or this week, a scorpion came into my meditation. So that was also a medicine. That was an energy that also was information for me to look up. And it was talking about cycles of death and rebirth. And that's exactly what was important for me to know at that time in that meditation. So it's like, there are so many ways that we can develop it, but the fastest way to do it is to start getting quiet, to start breathing even just 1 minute every day, and to start practicing.
I've got an exciting offer for all of my listeners: the free Divine Daily Practices video series. Get simple practices to release anxious thoughts, sharpen your intuition, and rewire your nervous system in less than 10 minutes a day. Come on over to my website at divinelifestyles.com/divine daily practices. And over the next week, you'll receive a complimentary self-care system to drop into your authentic self and activate your divine intuitive wisdom. I hope you enjoy. I love, you and I had spoken about this before, so I want to bring it up, when it's like you hear that, that little knowing as you're going out to the car, pack your umbrella, right?
Yeah.
And then the other part of our brain's like, I don't need the umbrella, it's not going to rain.
Yeah.
But you're like, where did that just come from? And I was telling you that happened to me a couple of weeks ago. And it was like, I went out of the house, I didn't have my purse. And I heard, go back inside and get your purse, you're going to need it. No, I'm not going to need it. I'm going to just, go there. Well, sure enough, I went to my yoga class, and then I got a phone call, and I needed my wallet to make a stop. Right. So I ended up having to go all the way home, get my purse so I can get my wallet, and then go back out. So it was a perfect example of that little whisper that I was ignoring.
Yeah. Yeah. And it happens all the time. And the thing is, we want it to be like big and prophetic. And it's like, oh my God, my intuition told me this amazing fact. But it's usually stupid stuff like grab your wallet, and maybe you should grab an umbrella, and, take a left instead of a right, wear the red shirt instead of the yellow one. Like, seemingly stupid, insignificant things. But when you're listening constantly, and, it doesn't matter if it's a little thing or it's a big thing, you start to hone that muscle. And so I like to compare it to, When you have a friend who they're maybe in a toxic relationship and they keep coming to you for advice. Oh, please, can you help me? I have this problem. Everything is going so bad. Like, can you help me with advice? You give them advice, and then they just keep like disregarding the advice you gave them, and they just keep going through the same toxic patterns. Well, over time, what everyone does is we go like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired of giving them advice. They don't even listen to me anyway. I'm done giving them advice. Your spirit team is the exact same way. When you're like, oh, listen, I want to open up my intuition. And then you keep getting these whispers and these signs and these signals and these like all sorts of things. But you're like, I need a sign of your sign, actually. It's like your guides are doing like a face palm, like, I don't know what else I can keep helping you with. Like, and I mean, I like to make jokes, make fun of us doing these kinds of things, but we're only human, and the problem is your intuition is always speaking to you. It's a belief that you don't have intuition, or the belief that you're somehow disconnected from it. So I believe everybody starting right now can just decide to start listening like that. You just snap your fingers. You can just decide to start listening to your instincts. See how your day unfolds. You might be really pleasantly surprised. And I can't even tell you, I mean, every single week, I'll have like a passing thought of a friend and I'll reach out to them because I just had this passing thought of a friend. That's all it is. It's not even like a whole story. It's not like I saw something. It's just, oh, I just thought of them. And I shoot them a text message. 100% of the time, they text me back. It's crazy that you just texted me. I was just thinking about you. I was just talking about you. I was going to call you today. Every single time. So it's like, it's like, these are like silly, mundane things, but this is how you start to hone your intuition. It's not the big things, it's the little things.
Mhm. Yeah. So I want to dig more into what you do with your clients. So let's talk a little bit about chakras and energy alignment in the context of your business.
So with my clients, primarily, I don't see many one-on-ones anymore. I'm mostly teaching coaches, healers, and leaders how to do the work that I do. But I also do sometimes see people one-on-one because I absolutely love it. So in a one-on-one session, when I'm working on my clients, I am opening up to receiving whatever's in their highest and best interest. We will process through a number of different ways to clear the energy. There's a story that always tends to show up for each energy center. Sometimes there could be an energy center that I might be working on, let's say their solar plexus and their belly, and clearing their solar plexus and opening up whatever is blocking. And somehow the story around trusting, and then there's a connection with past team members, and all of a sudden these next stories unfold, and it's like, they're asking me, how did you know that? And yeah, that's so shocking. I do have that issue with a past team member or whatever it's really interesting how these stories kind of unfold. The thing is that when you're connected with somebody's energy field and they are available for the work to move, so many miraculous things can happen. I've worked with so many guides and angels and archangels and ascended masters that just show up within the context of one session that I didn't know it was going to happen. They didn't know it was going to happen. It's just sort of how they all kind of it's what happens when energy opens, and it's whatever in the highest and best interest for the person. And I teach people how to do this work as well. So I'm training them the basics, the fundamentals of what are each of the chakras, who are these guides, who are these angels and archangels, who are some of ascended masters. And within their sessions, because I monitor, we have student practice clinics, so I get to watch their sessions. They also submit sessions to me for viewing. I'm watching my students now connecting with guides and connecting with their clients' energy centers and moving energy. And I can feel it as I'm watching it. It's really spectacular. So it's like that next level of, I've mastered this work and I get to do it, sometimes with people one-on-one. Primarily I'm working with groups at this point. And then now I get to see passing the torch with these incredible practitioners through my training. It's really, really fun.
And that's the integrative energy alignment training.
Yeah, it
Yes.
is.
Yes. That's so beautiful.
Thank you.
So tell me, what is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
Um, I have to think about that.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. It's
you know,
such,
I think, what was
I
that?
I love to hear what people say because it's so interesting. So yeah, think about that.
Yeah.
You don't have to think too hard on it. See if it comes up. But what do you have coming up next for you?
Well, right now, at the time we're recording, I'm opening up a new training called Breaking Up with Broke, and it's ushering in a new era of impact driven practitioners who are here to make a big difference in the world. So that's my new training. The certification, I use the acronym IEA for short. That training is opening in June for applications. And then we have kind of like an open summer. We take some VIP days here and there, but really it's starting the next round of practitioner training. So we do it every 6 months, and we have a retreat through it as well. So that's kind of what our focus is right now, what my focus has been in. And it's been incredible. We have some students in another program who we've had a few applications roll in already, and they don't officially open until next week. So it's really exciting to see, interest building. And yeah, I'm just really excited to see the doors reopen and who's applying. So that's what I'm focused on right now.
So where can people find you online?
My website is the easiest place, emilyarons.com. I do hang out primarily on Instagram if you're on social media. And on my website, you can get a little taste of this energy healing if you're interested. Right on the main website, there's the Abundance Power Duo. You can take a whirl at some of the energy healings if you're interested. They're two free, amazing meditations that you can listen to anytime, and they'll help you to get more aligned and abundant.
I love that. If we have some time, would you like to do just an energy reading on me? We can do that if you feel called to do it. And if you think about that piece of advice, let me know.
Sure. Yeah. Let's see. What I can do is why don't I pull a card for everybody? We'll do a quick reading.
Yeah, let's do it.
So I'll shuffle up some cards and I'll give a reading for the listeners so they can benefit, get a little something. All right. So I'll pull a few. All right. Let's see. So card 1 is healing. Schedule in your healing work. So this is sort of like this is like your guides telling you you're overdue. It's time to schedule whatever it is for you. So if it's a massage, it's a facial, it's going back to the acupuncturist, nutritionist, whatever it is, it's time to get that actually on your schedule. Number 2 is up leveling. Breathe deeply into your expansion. So being that it's next to the healing one is coming now because you are going through such huge shifts. It is a time of expansion and it is a time of up leveling. So you really do have to take care of this little vessel that you're renting. Take care of your body. And the third one is outsource. Stop trying to do everything alone. So this is that next level. Like, hey, listen,
Let's go.
yeah, this might be calling you out a little bit here. So it's saying like you're on to the next level. You can't be doing all of the things. And frankly, you're doing people a disservice because you're not the best at all of those things. You have to stay in your zone of genius. And so this is saying, breathe deeply into your expansion. So how do I serve at my highest level? Okay, just do that. What are all the other things and tasks and things that are filling the schedule that's taking you away from that? And I actually just interviewed somebody right before this interview, and she works as a COO in other people's companies. And I love that for her. And I was saying, well, for me, when I first brought on my COO, it was a huge adjustment, but she makes my life so much easier. It's like having a full-time cheerleader, but also somebody who can like literally take things off of my plate and delegate to the rest of the team. And we have a really deep bond, a really special connection relationship. So this is like that next level of, you're ready to do big things. It's time to really just go and do them. And back to the best piece of advice, I don't know if it's necessarily something that anybody ever, taught me, but it's definitely something that has been coming up recently. And I think, I almost want to say it was like something that Jay-Z said, but I don't know if that's true. So you'll have to fact check me on that. Because in this time, because I think it's appropriate, because with this card, up leveling, when we are making a bigger impact, when we are helping more people, when we are putting ourselves out there so much more to be visible, there's always going to be people who are like with you in that energy, in that spirit, and like, yeah, I love you. I love what you have to do. And then there's going to be people who maybe used to love you and then they don't love you so much anymore. And they become maybe a hater. And when you have these shifts and changes, I know for me, I'm so sensitive to these kinds of changes. And so when people come and maybe complain or blame you, it's really nice to not engage in a back and forth. And so the quote really is around when you're arguing with a fool, somebody passing by is not going to know which is which. And so I realize that a lot of times, we have customer support, we have team members, and I don't often have to get into these conversations with folks, but these things come up. And so, I think a lot of times as business owners, we do want to be right. I know for myself, I love being right. So, if somebody thinks that there is something that should have been done, but it wasn't done, and then they point the finger, and more specifically, I'm speaking to students who don't do the work, don't do the required work, and then blame their peers and blame me and blame my team. And it's like, you can't argue with people. You can't fight. You just like, it's best to just send them off with love. And I also enjoy like giving money back to them, as I don't want that energetic tie either. I know that's like a weird piece of advice, but I think it's important to know, and especially where people can be so heated about things. And I know you're here to spread light. You're here to do really big things. And, inevitably these things come up. So I think it's really a good piece of advice, which is to not engage in those, matches.
Yeah, it's so funny you mentioned this, because last night my husband and we had some friends over and we were talking about something, and he said, I get very mad at myself if there's like for example, I'm walking across the street in New York City and there's somebody, that's got really intense energy at the stoplight, and I'm not walking fast enough and they're laying on their horn. And then, I could turn around and flip them off or yell back at them. He's like, or I can just hold my own energy space and not engage with them and not fight with them and just keep it moving. So he was sharing with us that was one of the gifts that he feels like he's been able to receive with age, just really having that patience and understanding not to engage in that energy when, others are so quick to react. I forget what he said. He said something very eloquent last night. It was much like what you were saying, like, the fool, I get it. It's like people, the onlookers won't know which one is which. You both are engaging, right?
Yeah.
So very timely advice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. And everyone, go check out her work and grab her freebies. I'll make sure that you are linked up. And thank you so much. It's such an honor to always chat with you.
Thank you.
And
The feeling is mutual. Love having this time together. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Divine Lifestyles Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you get your episodes. If you really loved this episode, screenshot it and share it on social media. It will help us to continue to make an impact. With gratitude and love always, keep illuminating your path.